Paul Cripps. You're the production designer for Ted Lasso, whose third season has been streaming this spring. Is there a sense of ease going into the third year of the show, or are there always new challenges and problems to solve?
I think there's always problems to solve, but I think going into the third one, it was more the expectation of viewers that we were going to do what they wanted. Everybody has kind of theories about how the series is going to end. Everybody kind of knows it's the last series. People had expectations of what would happen to the characters. So there seemed to be a lot of expectations that we had to provide a good season. And that was more the kind of worry for us all, rather than anything particularly production design based, I think. I actually felt quite good about going into the last season. I was kind of having a little bit of fun in that I knew by the end of season 2 that people really liked the show. So there was a certain amount of relaxation in terms of people liked the world that we built. And so we were maybe just expanding that a little bit.
And how did you expand that world? Like, what new sets and locations did you create, and how did those come together?
Well, we had elements of the story that had expanded. So Nate had become manager of West Ham. So we created some sets that worked for him as a working environment. We had to fit in with West Ham, the football team itself, which plays at the London Stadium, which is the former stadium where the 2012 Olympics were held. We also, this year, we had a deal with the Premier League and with all the teams, with Nike. So it was fitting in with those elements. So we had to fit in with the real West Ham team, and had to get approval for designs for that. And I just wanted everything to feel like it was in the stadium. And again, trying to make it feel like a real environment that Nate was working in. And then also we had Keely, who was a character who was branching off into her new company, her new PR company. So we had a new kind of environment for Keely, which was fun to design. So there were little branches off from all the characters, slightly increasing the world of Ted Lasso, but not by much, and still retaining the kind of elements that everybody was familiar with.
And is there a lot of work needed on pre-existing sets and locations when you return for a new season, like new dressings or the way things change?
To a certain degree. I mean, between season 1 and season 2, we actually took down all the sets because we didn't know if the show was going to get a second season, basically. But this year we left them all up. So there was a certain amount of revamping, but also football clubs change every year. We wanted to kind of slightly give it a further revamp in terms of FC Richmond. So there's a certain amount of rebuilding, and we had some new sets coming in. We originally had Sam's restaurant as a location, and because it was a lot more involved in season 3, we decided to build that as a set, an interior set, and we ended up shooting the exterior in the studio as well, and kind of CGIing some elements of the street into it. So there was always work to be done to improve what was existing and to just change up the feel that it was a new season and they were back in the Premier League.
You've been nominated twice at the Emmys for Ted Lasso, and this year you're entering the Sunflowers episode for consideration. That's the episode that takes the characters to Amsterdam. What about the design in that are you especially proud of?
I really loved that episode. We had a wonderful time filming in Amsterdam. We had a great Dutch crew, but there were elements that we had to do in London. We couldn't take the whole team to London, so all the elements with the major part of the football team were built in London, and we also built the interior of the houseboat in London. So it was just an idea of, having some great new locations, interiors and exteriors to deal with, but also to replicate some of the interiors back in London and trying to integrate that so it kind of works seamlessly. And there were some quite tricky little things to do in terms of building a foyer that you could have a massive pillow fight in, which, is not easy when it's a big hotel space. So we built that into a conference space in a hotel, and we built what I thought was a beautiful little set for the interior of the houseboat. But it was just nice to deal with environments in a different country, and had a certain different feel to that episode, which took us out of the kind of normal Ted Lasso world. But it was just really enjoyable.
And that houseboat is especially memorable because you're basically introducing a new character and establishing that character with a physical space. There's that scene where Rebecca is sort of getting to know him by touring his home. So what was it like to create that character through his space?
It's really lovely. There's also this idea of gezellig. I can't say it. It's the Dutch word, but it's quite difficult to say. But it means a kind of warm hug, or a feeling of, being at home, or that feeling of being content. And the whole set was kind of supposed to replicate that, or kind of represent it. And Brendan Hunt, who'd written the whole episode, has spent a lot of time in Holland. So I spent a lot of time talking to Brendan about, the ideas behind his episode. So that was brought in. And the basis of that was doing, a lot of research in Amsterdam, looking at various houseboats, but also doing some buying there. A lot of the props were bought from street markets in Amsterdam, so we could bring that flavor back to London. But it was just the idea that it was like a warm hug, a slightly retro feel to the houseboat, but you felt it at ease. And we wanted the idea that Rebecca felt, okay, this is a bit odd. I'm in some guy's houseboat. I don't know how I've ended up here, but there's actually a feeling of content, and this is lovely, and it's not threatening. And so it's quite a difficult thing to get into a set, but I felt we'd kind of achieved that.
And with the show ending with season 3, what will you miss about the show, about the experience and your work on the show?
Oh, I'll just miss the people. I think it was such a lovely crew to work with, cast and crew, and that's partially been an experience due to the reaction of people who watch the show. And I think that emotional response to the show is partly what everybody will miss. It's the people who work on the show and the response to it from people outside. And I've never really worked on a show where it's had that kind of response. And that's really what I'm going to miss. I mean, who knows? There might be another season. I'm not sure whether I'll be doing it. But, I know that I've had those 3 series, and I've had that interaction with both the cast and crew, but also with people I've just met on the street and talked to about the show, or I've talked to online. And that experience has just been transformative, to be honest. Even for me, after working in this industry 30 years, I've never had that response from people about a show they've watched. So for me, it's just been amazing.
Well, I want to congratulate you on your work on the show, these 3 seasons. Congratulations on the nominations you've received, and thank you so much for talking with me about it.
Thank you.